Okay, sir. So before we start, can you please introduce yourself? Give a short intro.
Yeah, I'm Balamurali. I am from Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. I'm doing my business and I'm into export of coir and coconut products since 2009. And before that, I was working in some multinational companies. I was working abroad and then I started my business and slowly for the past 10 years I have reached to an extent where with a considerable amount of turnover in my business.
Okay. So what was your initial motivation to start a business?
I would say I always had this habit of thinking ahead from whatever is there. I always had an drive to go beyond something what I'm doing at present. So initially, my encouragement was that because in early 2000s, almost all my friends and my fellow college mates were all aiming for studying in US. So I also was inspired to do that, and I started the journey to make it to the US. But unfortunately, my visa applications didn't go through, and it got rejected. So at that point of time, I had a thought: why should I be desperate about going to US when there are many other avenues where I can succeed? So one such thing was, without that journey I had in my mind was about automobiles. So initially I joined a company in Coimbatore, which was doing R&D work in automobiles. So that was my first job, and I worked there for a couple of years. And then I thought, okay, then I thought maybe I need to have more exposure in automobile field, so I have to move to either Chennai or Bangalore, like that. So then I moved to a company called Delphi in Chennai, and it was a company manufacturing fuel injection system for automobiles. So I had the opportunity to work there, and again I worked there for another couple of years. And during this period, there was an IT revolution in India. It was something around 2003, 2004. Everyone used to dream about an IT job. It was like other jobs are fit for nothing, and only IT was key. So there was an impression that the IT information technology job is the thing in that situation. So I had to take a decision that either I have to move completely to an IT based opportunity, or try to bring in some information technology based work in my regular activities. So then I just started to explore what are the opportunities for me on those avenues. Then I thought maybe automobile software was better because I was already in automobiles, and so that then I just increased my honed my skills to make sure that I would be able to um, take up an software come automobile job. So this ended up in me joining a company called Bosch in Bangalore, where they manufacture the car ECUs and all the electronics parts of a car. So this was a company in Bangalore, and I joined this company in 2006. And this is where uh, I would say there was a lot of opportunity to learn there, and I was able to see how an organization could work and I was able to learn many um, ethical ways of doing business or ways of working and many stuff in that company. So that journey continued for another 2 years, where I was also deputed for Germany, and I was working there for a year. And during that period, I had an thought of becoming an entrepreneur and take up some business activity in India. So I had started my plan, or started working on my plan to return back to India, and with an idea to start a business. So I was already approached. I was also looking for opportunities in Germany to see what all options are there. If I could find a good opportunity there to do some business, and that also had a small what to say a lead, sort of a lead for me to take up, to start with a business. And it was clear that it was going to be something to do with export. So then I returned back to India, and I was continuing my work in India. In the sense, I was working after coming back to India for 6 months, and then I found there is opportunity for coir products, and the demand for coir products is good throughout the world. And from there, I started to slowly work on export-based opportunities. And from 2010 and 2011, slowly we started to view and focus on export oriented business. This is how I started this. And at that point of time, when we started, there was no big quantity of coconut and coir products being exported. And now there is a huge volume happening, not only from me, but I'm saying generally from the from this region. And this is how my journey as an entrepreneur started. And yeah, this is about me and my journey to becoming an entrepreneur.
So can you explain in brief about the coir product? What is money? Coir product? What are they?
See, you should have been known about the coconut tree. Yeah, the coconut tree gives a fruit called the coconut, and the coconut is inside an hard shell, which is surrounded by a soft shell. This soft shell, which is in the outer of the coconut, it has predominantly two basic things, which is the fiber, and there's a spongy material inside which retains the water and keeps the coconut cool. So this is the outer layer of the coconut, and when we use this husk, it's called the husk, coconut husk. So this coconut husk can be processed and made into two products. It's called coconut fiber, and another one is called the cocopeat. So this coconut fiber is used in many furnitures. In your mattress, I would say that most of your mattress will have a layer of coconut fiber, and it is also used for some garden articles, and for used as the ropes. Many ropes would have been made with the coconut fiber, and they have been used for geotextiles. It is used for prevention of erosion, to prevent erosion and landscaping. So the coir fiber is used in these many industries, while the cocopeat it has a unique property of retaining the water at least 7 times more than its weight. So if you have 1 kg of water, I mean 1 kg of cocopeat, it can absorb 7 kg of water. So it can retain in itself. With 1 kg of cocopeat, you can keep 7 kg of water with that. So this holds an important point where you can use this as a growing media for the substrate of plants. So it's a very big area where the substrate for plants, especially in Europe and US and all the upper hemisphere countries where you cannot cultivate round the year because the weather is very chill. So you have to have greenhouses there, closed space cultivation, not like in a tropical region where we have enough sunlight around the year and the weather is not so drastic. It doesn't go below 25 or 20 degrees, so that the crop can be cultivated round the year. But in the other parts of the world, you cannot do that round the year. So they have greenhouses. It's a closed space where you need to have an substrate, and this substrate basically is of cocopeat. Before cocopeat, there was a product called peat moss, and since that was not an environment friendly material, it was not preferred by many. But cocopeat is a renewable source because you're not cutting down a tree or doing something non-renewable. This coconut is a renewable source. You have a tree and it can produce coconuts for 30, 40, 50 years. So it is considered to be an renewable source, so that you can get coir fiber and cocoa peat. Both are renewable and it's environment friendly.
Okay, so my next question is that as an entrepreneur, how do you manage your employees and motivate them to do their work?
As far as employees are concerned, the first thing what I would feed them is about what is the real consequence of their work in case of negligence. And I make them understand the importance of their work and what they need to do and what they should not do. And in case of any unforeseen circumstance or the effect of their work, I make sure that they understand the problem, and so that they also realize what's happening. If I have been in the situation earlier when I was working in another company, because we used to do some work, but we don't know what it is going to have, what is the effect of our work. So when we don't know about this effect, our dedication and our sincerity is low. But whereas when we know what is the impact of our work, obviously our involvement and the sincerity towards the work is maximum. So this is the principle was I had followed with my employees, and I have taught them that what will be the consequence if they fail to follow their work. And this way of making them understand the importance of their work, I think that it's going to keep on encouraging them to do more. Yeah.
Okay, so audiences, do you have any question? You can ask. You can write in the chat box or you can ask directly.
A question.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
I don't know if you talk about your technical background, but if we think about this startup and company, it's related to environment project. So I'm just curious about how much technical knowledge that you learn throughout working with Bosch and automobile company is something that you really apply in this field of work. How is that related?
Okay. I would say that the technical stuff which I learned is not exactly what I'm using it now. It is, I would say, because I had my experience in automobiles and software, but I am working with some export-oriented industry. But the important learnings which I had is about the managerial qualities which I had picked up in my earlier organizations, the managerial qualities of my seniors and how they work. All these things had an impact on me, and those are the points which are more useful for me rather than the technical. I would say it is about the managerial qualities which I have gained throughout my work period, that's being used now during my a business job. Yeah.
Okay, and one more question actually.
Yeah.
What do you think about how your experience in working industry helped you in a startup, and would you imagine starting a startup at the start of your career? How that two scenarios will change the outcome of the, like, working for industry obviously again uh, gives you experience, but what if you want to start out of your college or something like that? What are the chances there, and what do you think about that?
Okay, about starting an entrepreneurial journey, I would say it is about what is your idea. Everyone should have a concept on an idea before venturing into entrepreneurship. So if you have a strong idea and if you have a strong will, definitely you can give a try, and earlier you do it, it is the best. It is not easy to do it in later part of your life rather than doing as soon as you complete your studies. So in fact, I had done it almost like 8 or 9 years after my studies. So initial 8 to 9 years I had worked somewhere, and it was a very tough decision to put my job away and start an journey as an entrepreneur. So it was a very difficult choice, but not everyone can take that decision. But if they are taking it at a younger age, it is much easier. But you need to be very sure about your concept, what you're going to do, and how persistent you are, how strong willed you are. These are the things which it will take you for a long run. You have to be very strong willed. If you are very focused on your work, definitely you can achieve that. Without your focused, strong-willed nature, even if you have a very good idea, you cannot have an enduring run and complete your journey. So I would say these two characters are required when you want to start an entrepreneurial journey. The first is about the idea what you're going to do, and second is about your strong-willed nature and never give up attitude for achieving that. These two things are very important, and you need to start it as soon as possible rather than delaying it for later period. Many would say, let me become what to say, settle my life and take a risk later. But that is not going to be easy. When you're doing it at a younger age, it's going to be much easier, but you have to be clear in your objectives. If you are clear on your objectives, definitely you can do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Anyone? Okay, so sir, I have one more question. So, what is the difference between an entrepreneur and a businessman? What do you think about it?
Okay. Entrepreneur is one, he needs to invent something. He needs to do things differently. Businessman is a person who just needs to do buy and sell, or just do something for a profit. But entrepreneur has to do that in a different way. You can even buy and sell the same stuff, but you have to do it in a different way. For example, if you're just buying some product and selling it, if you're going to a market and buying and selling it, it's a normal business. But if you're inventing a way so that, like with an app, you're doing something, then you become an entrepreneur. So it is something about doing things in a different way and inventing a different process of doing an conventional method makes you an entrepreneur, and that idea will be unique, which will take you for a longer run, and you will be ahead of others. If there are many businessmen, you will be ahead of them because of your concept and your idea, which is very different from them, and that makes you as an entrepreneur. So this is the key ideology.
So which one is more successful, entrepreneur or businessman in the
So
long
it
run?
depends upon your idea. See, if you have a very good idea and a successful process to implement it, it will be the very best one. But if you just want to be a businessman, obviously you can be, but the margin, your profits all are in a very closed point. Maybe you get some 5% or 10% profit. But when you become an entrepreneur, it is about your idea and concept, which is highly valued. It's not about just 5%.
Okay, he has muted himself. Yes, sir, please continue.
Yeah. So I would say that is the difference between being an entrepreneur and businessman. Uh, Definitely, if you have an idea, you should try to implement that and try to be different from others, where others do it in a conventional way. You can do this in an very different and very way, in a way which will be very unique and which will give some very high returns.
So as per statistics say that more than 90% of startups fail within the first 5 years. So what do you think is the major reason that startups fail?
The first thing is their concepts should be strong. If they have a good concept and which is more likely to be a hit, they can do it. Second is about their persistent effort. See, nowadays, the becoming an successful startup, unicorn. Unicorn is the image everyone trying to achieve. The unicorn image. Even today, I was just seeing an scroll in CNBC or somewhere. India has some 70 odd unicorns, but US has something around 350 unicorns. So the reason is, one, about your idea and concept. Second is about your strong-willed nature. Third is about the exposure, because being in California makes a huge difference, because you have a lot of investors waiting to find some good unicorns or some startups. The same amount is lower in India, even in Bangalore, but it will be much lower when I do it in Coimbatore. So that way, there is still, this is a growing area where you need to you need, not only you need to have a good idea or a strong will nature, but also you need to have access to a good investor, maybe the angel investors or some uh, uh, who can support you initially. So all these things come together to make sure that the startup is successful. So I think Indian companies, there are many companies who have good ideas and they also try to become good, but the availability of exposure availability to them is not as much as in other developed nations, maybe in US or Germany or UK. So I would say that that's another gray area where we need to get access to uh, investors.
Okay, so guys, do you have any question? You can directly ask sir or write in the chat box. Any question, anyone? So, okay, so my next question is that, so do you think in order to be an entrepreneur, do you need an inborn talent that a child has to, have some inborn talent to become an entrepreneur, or do you think that talent could be developed, the mindset could be developed?
It is not about inborn, but it can be developed. Definitely, it can be developed. But the eagerness of a person to become an entrepreneur or a businessman, it has to be cultivated from a very small age. That has to start from himself. it may not be inborn, but he should get inspired by something, and he should start to learn about that. I would just say, like to say my experience about why I was able to become an entrepreneur from working in some company, because from my young age I used to read newspapers, business newspapers, every day. Every day, literally every day, I would read all the columns, and at least the headlines. Even if I'm occupied with something, I would take a business paper. I would just scroll through the business headlines, what's happening around me in this country. So it's something like, I still remember what was the crude oil price in somewhere in 2001 or 2002. So to that extent, I was able to follow about the economics in our country, or the about our country's business environment. So slowly, this was in my mind everywhere. Whenever I do something, I just something comes in my mind about how this will be manufactured, or how this will be sold, or how this will be marketed. So that kind of attitude, if you are able to develop, you would gain a lot of knowledge, and which cannot be developed within 1 or 2 years. It has to be developed over a period of time, where whatever you do, for example, I will say, I just found out a simple way when I was young, how to value a product. So what I would say is, okay, you buy a product which is made up of plastic. Say, assume that product plastic weighs something around half a kg, and the person has put a price tag of around 500 rupees. The easiest way to judge that is, what is the cost of raw material, the plastic raw material for a kg. So if you say currently the 1 kg of plastic is something around 120 rupees. So half a kg is selling for 500 rupees, which means a kg is he's selling for 1000 rupees. So which is not at all correlatable. So then I would say, at the moment I see that product, within few minutes I can assume, I would come for a conclusion whether that is worth for it or not worth for it. So this is an method I actually conceived during my younger age, with my exposure to these sort of environments, and my thinking about becoming an what to say judging a product for manufacturing, or doing some activity with that. So this is a simple what to say a simple method or thumb rule to judge a product, whether it is worth for that price or not. So this is my experience with that.
So, do you think in order to be a successful entrepreneur, a particular person need to become a great salesman? Because you see, sales is very tough job. It's not for everyone. But do you think that is it necessary you have to be good in sales if you want to become a successful entrepreneur or businessman?
Obviously, it would be good if you're a good salesman. But if you're not a good salesman, then you should make sure your product speaks for you. If your product speaks for you, then obviously you need not be a good salesman. Everyone would come to you to buy it. But if you are a salesman, it will be better. It will be an added advantage to sell your product easily for the first initial period, during your initial period of time. Because if you're not a salesman, if you have a good product, it would take time to hit the market, and so that everyone will start coming to you. But if you're a good salesman and also you have a good product, then it is much faster to hit the market and get a good feedback. So obviously it pays good for being a good salesman. Even I in my experience, I was not a good salesman initially, but slowly I started to learn about the what to say the marketing gimmicks, or marketing methods, to become a good salesman. Even in this case, I would like to say one of my experience. I actually sell this coconut fiber to a country, or maybe about China. And when I sell this to China, I sell to one particular person, but I'm not able to reach to the other person because there is a communication barrier. Because in China, there are not many people know English. I sell my product to them, but I don't get an what to say, a good another word by mouth, or some other customer apart from what to whom I'm selling. So this was a problem I was facing all around for a couple of years. And I thought how I should tackle this. Then I just came to a concept or idea where, because when I visited China, I would see that a lot of people, almost everyone uses WeChat. Like what we use WhatsApp here, they use WeChat. And in WeChat, what they normally do is they scan the QR code wherever they go, whatever they do, they just scan the QR code for payment, or just copying the phone numbers, or for anything and everything, they just use the QR code. So this was in my mind, and I thought, see, this is an easier way to reach to my customer, to expand my customer base. So what I did is all of my products had a QR code of my WeChat, and I placed that in my products. Earlier, I used to do the same with my name, email ID, phone number, everything, but none of them call me or try to call me because they were not confident about reaching me and speaking in English. So once I put this QR code there, it's just about taking their phone and just scanning it, and again they getting in touch with me. And the best thing about WeChat is there's a translation feature where they can type in Chinese and I can translate to English. I can type in English, they can translate to Chinese. So this worked in a good way where all of the people, whoever comes across my product, they were able to just scan the QR code and just get in touch with me through WeChat. So this was a big boom for my business, where I got hold of all my end users, and they were starting to get in touch with me. So I have a list of end users who are using, even if they were not buying directly from me, or if they are buying through some agent or someone in between, they would contact me and we are in touch. So this is a way of marketing. In fact, it was like easy marketing where there is no direct conversation and there is a language barrier involved there, because they don't know English, I don't know Chinese. So this was one of the I would say sales and marketing method I followed to be successful.
So, what are some factors do you think that can improve the sales skill of a person? Improve the, the skill of sales, because it's a skill that can be developed. So, how can a person develop his sales skill?
Improving a sales skill is about you're improving your what to say, your
Communication.
uh, communication. Yeah, first is about the communication, and it is about, first it is not about the business you talk, it is about your getting your what to say, your comfort zone. When you discuss with your customer, first thing is about the comfort zone, how comfortable you are with them and how comfortable he is with you. So this rapport has to start to build before we start to discuss about the business. So that is a key feature for a marketing person to achieve his target. So I just realize, see, I have many suppliers or service providers, because when I do some shipments, many shipping agents call me. So I learn from their attitude. So what is attracting me towards them, because there are many people approaching me, but only few are successful. So I would try to learn who is convincing me and how they convince me, and I try to learn from them and use that for my approaching my customers. So in that way, I would say that personally speaking and personally visiting your customer is the first thing you should do, rather than just speaking over a phone or just sending an email or giving a proposal won't help. Rather, reaching out to them in person will have a big effect. And this is my learning with my suppliers, how they reached me and how I was convinced with them. and I'm also trying the same to do with my customers. So I would say try to reach them personally and build a rapport, so that will last forever.
So anyone has any question? Can ask. Anybody has any question? So, what is the importance of financial literacy in entrepreneurship? Do you think that in order to be an entrepreneur, a person has to be, very good at financial literacy? Because it is something which is not taught in schools. Financial literacy. What are assets? What are liabilities? Like that.
It is better to have that, but the very first thing which you need to know is how is your finance like for a month at least. What is your input? What is your output? And how balanced you are. The first thing, that is the first step. At least you should know, because you cannot captain a sinking ship for a long time. So if your output is too much and your inputs are very low, you cannot survive for too much time. So the the very basic understanding you should have about finance is about these two at least. And forget about the other things about your what your auditor says and other things, that there are many people who can assist on that. But have the just have the basic idea, how is your inputs and how about your outputs. Try to manage, at least balance them. A positive input is better, and which will have you give you much better profits. But if not, during the initial period of time, at least you should have almost a balanced input and output cash flow. So that will be a positive step for doing the business. If you're not aware of that, if you're just very technical and you don't know what your expenses happening every month and what incoming is for you, then I think it will lead to an disaster.
So my last question is that, as you said that it is always better to start early, but don't you think that in order to start a business in a particular industry, a person need at least 5 to 6 years of experience? Because you said that it is better if you start after your graduation directly, because the more late you go, the more difficult it would be. But don't you think in order to start a business in an industry, a person need at least 5 years of experience, or he can start by knowing the basics only?
Yeah, very good question. The reason is, see, it is all about how confident you are about your concept and your ideology. If you are very confident, then you can start early. But if you're not confident enough, then obviously it is not going to help even if you start early. So, as I told you, the first thing is about how confident you are about your idea and how strong willed you are. These two things are the prerequisites for starting your own journey. If you have these two, then you can start early. Otherwise, then you have to build the skill, you have to build your idea about all these, then you have to start. It is not about starting it straight away without the first 2 points. It will lead to a disaster. So I would reiterate that you should have a good idea. If you think if it's a good idea and you have a strong will, and of course some financial backing should be there. If you are zero, then it is not possible. You should have some, at least minimum from support from your parents for at least for 1 or 2 years, then it is okay. But without any support, you cannot start that for the initial few years, and it will be difficult. But I would encourage that if you have a good idea and if you are very sure about that, you should start early. But if you're not confident about those things, then you should develop your skills, hone your ideas, then you have to venture into it.
So anyone has any questions?
Last question, I guess.
Yes.
How does COVID impacted your industry? Lot like if you are working online, if shipping is like happening, it's online process, then Amazon sales increase in the pandemic. Everything is booming for Amazon, but how is specifically business for exports and all that? I'm just curious about that.
Um, in 2020, just after the first wave, there was a positive effect on the business because throughout the world there was a shortage of everything. So initially there was some good feedback. Everyone was in a panic to refill their shelves. So everyone were just open to buy and keep on buying. So this resulted in an heavy shortage of containers shipping in the shipping industry. This container shortage started somewhere around August, September last year, and it is still now not improved. And every month passing by, we have a new different issues which are worsening the container shortage. Or there are too much disruptions happening in shipping industry. We don't know whether it is natural or man-made or it's just gimmick or something is happening and which is disrupting the whole industry. The shipping costs are skyrocketing like anything. For example, you don't
Abhishek, can you please mute yourself?
Okay, so the shipping industry is in a huge disruption. You can't believe that before COVID, we were shipping to US around $1,800 for a container. That was the cost of shipping from India to US. Now it is $18,000. It has increased 10 times. It is unbelievable, and this is having a huge impact now rather than last year. Last year, the increase was not so drastic. Rather, it was 1,800 was around 2,500 or 3,000. But this year, it is around 18,000. So all the shipping lines are minting money like anything. But the export industry is struggling. Because of demand, there is some movement. But I'm sure this cannot happen forever. And maybe in the next few months, this will take a turn. Until then, we will be in a difficult position to manage the business profitably. And even the customers are complaining too much because they are also not able to meet the cost. For example, our product cost is around $8,000. Our shipping cost is around $18,000. So it is like totally upside down. Earlier it used to be $8,000 and the shipping cost is $1,800. But now it is $8,000 for the product and $18,000 for shipping. So many people have started to find some alternative, and this is creating an disruption in another way. Like people are trying to find manufacturing in nearby to their places. I can see one of my customer somewhere in South America. Now he's not able to get for a low price first. It takes at least 3 months for him to get the cargo. So he is just wondering whether I should start the industry here itself to do the product. So this is an side effect of this disruption which has happened in the last 1.5 years. And no one knows whether it's going to be in a good way or the wrong way. But we are facing a lot of disruptions. That is the truth.
Okay. And you talked about exports. So there, I think, involves supply chains into those, right? Or it's not that big of a system because I heard that right these days we are using blockchain in supply chains. So is there any kind of that applications that you see across this export system? I think, this will be my last question, definitely.
Until now, there is no blockchain applications being done, but they have started to implement, especially for see, when we do shipments, there is an bill of lading, which is the for official document to get the containers released from the shipper to the consignee. So currently we have a hard copy system or a system where we have to surrender the hard copy and make the customer get the containers. So I understand that some shipping lines are developing a system with blockchain to overcome this issue, and they're just trying to do that. But until now, none of these have been implemented. But I hope it will be done in another couple of years, because we had this biggest problem as soon as the 2020 lockdown was announced. The first thing which struck my mind was, how would I send all my documents to my customers, because everything is midway, either in my agent's office, some in my office, some in bank, and all these has to be collected, and all these has to be couriered to the customer, so that the customer can release these things when the container reaches there. Otherwise the containers would lie there for many days, and that would cost demurrages and charges to the customer, which in turn he would ask me to take care of, because it is none of his problem, because we are supposed to hand over all the documents to him. So this was the first thing, because once it was announced in March last year, from tomorrow we are going for a lockdown. The first thing which struck my mind is, how would I complete this documentation, and how would I send all these documents to my customer? So if we are having a process with blockchain where it is a simple what to say, a password or approval from my laptop, it would be an excellent way to do a business, and I hope that it will be implemented soon.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Sir, so one more question I had, that is, nowadays many young people dream to start their own business and they are basically very excited about it. But the thing is that once they get into a 9 to 5 job, and once they develop the addiction of getting a fixed salary, their dream tends to die. They say that अभी तो life आराम से चल रहा है, क्या जरूरत है business करने का, salary तो आ रहा है हर महीने में. So do you think this fixed income salary is one of the reason for the destruction of entrepreneurial dream?
Of course, it's up to the person. If he is very desperate to do something new, or he wants to invent something, he wants to do something unique, obviously he would chase that dream. But I would say the second point is about the difference, which I would say is about the environment where they are able to do a business. We need to have a conducive environment where you can do your business comfortably, and this conducive environment has to be given by the government to increase the amount of people starting business and doing their entrepreneurial journey. For example, if you I would advocate all these points whenever I have a meeting with some government officials. See, there are many people who are having idea of starting a business. Say if they want to start a manufacturing business, what they need is first is land, or there are a space, at least away for a rent, at least a space where it has a building, land and building, then the infrastructure for power, and then they have to bring on the machinery, then they have to arrange for their finance for turnover, then they have to arrange for the human resource, not to forget they have to manage all their government approvals for getting these done. So these many steps are there to achieve his dream of manufacturing or doing something for a person who's going to start a business. Instead, if government is doing all these things for you, and that in the sense government is giving you like a plug and play software space, if government is giving a plug and play manufacturing space, say if they have a big industrial park where the building is done, the approvals are everything going to be given by the officials, not you need not run pillar and post to get all the approvals. Rather, the government will support, government will it should be taken as a responsibility of government to give all the necessary approvals to the person to do that. Rather, the person going pillar and post and getting all these approvals, the government should facilitate all these approvals to him and make sure that he starts the business very fast. For example, if there is a space, say I need 5,000 square feet of space with some 100 HP of power. If there is space allocated by government, say if I just go to government and say I'm going to start such and such business, so I just need some 5,000 square feet of space. If government is allocating that space within no time, then the person would obviously buy the machinery. He just doesn't need any government incentive or government subsidies to start the business. He just needs the infrastructure to start the business. He can obviously get a loan. He can get a loan from bank for just putting up the machinery. That cost is manageable for him, rather than making the infrastructure. It is a much bigger effort for him rather than concentrating on his manufacturing. I think you got my point, right? So a person, if someone wants to do a business, manufacturing industry, his focus should be about how to manufacture. But nowadays, in our country, if a person wants to run a manufacturing industry, the first thing he needs to do for first initial at least 1 or 2 years is about how do I create that infrastructure. If government takes that responsibility of creating that infrastructure and giving plug and play space for the manufacturing people, it would be an day where India will become the #1 manufacturing nation in the world, overtaking China. This is my aim and vision for India. I wouldn't say aim, but it is my wish, and it should happen happen as soon as possible in our country. So if this happens, many youngsters will definitely start to do it. At least try. Where they can fail, but at least they can try it in a safer way where they don't end up in a big mess. They can give a try to do their vision, and it will be a turning point in our country's future.
So anyone has any last question? Anybody?
No.
So okay, so I guess that would be enough for today. So thank you guys for joining, and thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Just a minute. Sir, can you please share your LinkedIn details so we can get touch with you over there? Can you just share that in the chat box if that's possible?
I'm not very active in LinkedIn. You can get my WhatsApp so that if you need something, you can just text me about that. I think
Yes,
you can, someone can ping that. If someone needs my number, you can share it. Mr. Mukherjee can share that to them.
Okay, sure. I will share it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Did I note it correct? The number? Your WhatsApp number? I guess this one.
One moment. Shall I type the number?
Yeah, sure. Okay, okay. One more second. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, sir, for joining. It was a great session.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night, everyone.